It's 3:17 a.m., and I'm staring at the ceiling like it owes me answers. The glow from my phone screen cuts across the room, another email reminding me that a deadline is breathing down my neck. On the nightstand, a stack of bills sits there, unopened, because honestly, I don't have the emotional bandwidth to face them right now. The coffee I made at midnight is cold. Shocker. And somewhere in the distance, a siren wails, probably someone else having a worse night than me, but that doesn't make my chest feel any less tight. I whisper into the dark, not even sure I mean it, God, do you even see me? It's not a polished prayer. It's the kind of raw, unfiltered honesty that comes when you're too tired to pretend you've got it all together. Maybe you know that place. That 3 a.m. silence where doubt feels louder than faith, and the only thing spinning faster than your ceiling fan is the anxiety loop in your head. I used to think faith meant having all the answers, like, if I just prayed hard enough, the fog would lift and I'd get a divine roadmap delivered to my inbox. But here's the truth I'm learning the hard way: faith isn't about having clarity. It's about trusting the one who does, even when your own vision is blurry. I call this the illusion of control. We hustle, we plan, we craft backup plans for our backup plans, and we convince ourselves that if we just white-knuckle life hard enough, we can steer it. But then 3 a.m. hits, and the ceiling offers no solutions, and the cold coffee just sits there judging you. This is the daily battle with anxiety, the nagging fear that one wrong decision could unravel everything. And underneath all of it, there's this deep, aching human need for divine guidance. We crave someone bigger than us to step in and say, I've got this. But admitting that need? That feels like weakness. Or so I thought. Let me take you back to a moment that's burned into my memory. I was sitting in my car in an empty parking lot, the kind of place where the streetlights hum and nobody bothers you. I had a job interview in 20 minutes, and instead of reviewing my resume, I was crying. Not the pretty, single teardrop kind. The ugly, mascara ruining, can't catch your breath kind. The radio was off. The silence was thick. And I remember gripping the steering wheel and thinking, if I walk in there and blow this, what's left? That parking lot became my sanctuary of desperation. No stained glass, no worship band, just me, a Honda Civic, and a God I wasn't sure was listening. Have you ever felt like you're holding your breath, waiting for God to show up? Like, you've done the prayers, you've quoted the verses, you've smiled at church, but deep down you're wondering if he's actually going to come through this time. That's the mirror moment I want you to sit in for a second. Because here's what I've discovered: the turning point in my faith didn't happen in a church service. It didn't come with a dramatic altar call or a perfectly timed sermon. It came in a hospital waiting room, of all places. I was there for a family member, someone I love more than words can hold, and the prognosis was uncertain. The chairs were that fake leather that squeaks when you shift. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like they were mocking the tension in the room. And I remember sliding off my chair, onto that cold linoleum floor, and whispering the most honest prayer I've ever prayed: I can't carry this anymore. Not eloquent. Not theological. Just surrender. Raw, total, I'm done pretending surrender. And in that moment, something shifted. Not the circumstances, the diagnosis didn't magically vanish. But inside me, the grip of fear loosened just enough for a sliver of peace to slip through. I realized that brokenness isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a different kind of strength, one that doesn't come from us. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Oh great, here comes the Bible verse that fixes everything. But hear me out. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, you've probably heard it 1,000 times. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. For years, I treated that verse like a Christian fortune cookie: nice words, zero power. But in that hospital room, it became a lifeline. Not because it magically answered all my why questions, but because it gave me a what now. It told me I didn't have to understand the plan to trust the planner. I didn't have to see the whole path to take the next step. And that's the memorable truth I'm clinging to these days. Faith is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to take one more step when you can't see the path. That's not a cliché. That's survival. It's what gets you out of the parking lot and into the interview. It's what lifts you off the hospital floor and back into the chair. It's what turns a 3 a.m. ceiling stare into a whispered, "Okay, God. I don't get this, but I'm still here." So here I am, still learning. Still battling the anxiety that creeps in when the bills pile up. Still wrestling with the fear of making the wrong call. But I'm starting to see that the weight I was never meant to carry alone. That cold coffee. It's a reminder that my own strength runs out. That empty parking lot. It's holy ground now, because that's where I stopped pretending. And that hospital waiting room? It's where I stopped asking, why, and started whispering, what now, Lord? Maybe you're in your own version of that room tonight, staring at a ceiling, clutching a phone, waiting for a sign. Here's what I want you to know, God doesn't require you to have it all figured out. He just wants your next step. Even if it's shaky. Even if it's small. Even if it's taken at 3:18 a.m. with tears in your eyes. Because the God who sees you in the dark is the same God who promises to make your path straight, not by showing you the whole route, but by walking it with you. But then, in the silence, I heard something I never expected. The silence in that hospital room wasn't empty. It was thick, almost like a presence, pressing against my chest. And into that silence, something slipped through, not a voice, not words I could transcribe, but a peace so sudden and so foreign that it almost scared me. But then, right there on that cold linoleum floor, the storm just stopped. Not because the situation changed. The test results weren't back. The doctor hadn't walked in with good news. But something inside me shifted from thrashing to floating. I didn't trust the outcome yet, but I suddenly trusted the one holding it. The line hit me like a freight train, you give and take away, but my heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. And I remember thinking, okay, God. I don't feel it. I don't understand it. But I'm going to say it anyway. Blessed be your name. Not because I was holy. Because I was desperate. Because I had nothing else. That's where the real battle was happening. Not in the job market. Not in the hospital. Not in the bank account. The real war was in the story I'd been telling myself for years, that my worth was welded to my output. That if I wasn't producing, achieving, climbing, earning, then I was invisible. I had built an altar to productivity, and I worshipped there every single day, checking emails before my feet hit the floor, measuring my value in completed tasks, feeling physically nauseous when I had to say, I don't know, or I'm still waiting. I had turned my life into a performance review, and God was just the audience I hoped would applaud. And then the project collapsed. I'm not going to give you all the details because honestly, it's still tender to touch, but it was something I'd poured years into. My identity was tangled up in it like ivy on a brick wall. When it crumbled, I crumbled. I stopped answering texts. I let the dishes pile up. I'd lie in bed at 3 a.m., not praying, just staring, because I was too ashamed to even form words. The inner voice wasn't loud, it was a whisper, and that made it worse. You're on your own. You've always been on your own. God helps those who help themselves, and you can't even help yourself anymore. That voice wasn't from God. I know that now. But back then, it sounded like the truest thing I'd ever heard. Let me pause here and ask you something. This is one of those mirror moments where I need you to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you exhausted from trying to be God in your own life? From carrying the weight of every outcome, every relationship, every bill, every diagnosis, every unknown future, like it all depends on you? Because I was. I was so tired I didn't even know I was tired anymore. I had normalized the anxiety. The panic attacks in the grocery store, the obsessive list-making, the way I'd rewrite my resume at 2 a.m. for the 5th time because maybe, just maybe, if I tweaked one more bullet point, I'd finally be enough. That's not faith. That's functional atheism dressed up in religious language. And then I stumbled onto a verse that dismantled my entire operating system. Psalm 37, verse 23. Now, I've read the Psalms my whole life, but this time it hit different. The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. In the original Hebrew, that word for, established, or made firm, carries this idea of being directed, ordered, arranged, but not like a GPS that shows you the entire route from start to finish. It's more like a lamp unto your feet. Just enough light for the next step. Not the next 10 steps. Not the 5-year plan. Not the retirement strategy. The next step. And the condition isn't that you have it all figured out. The condition is that you delight in him. That you find your joy, your satisfaction, your identity in who he is, not in what you produce. That reframed everything for me. I had been begging God for a map, and he was offering me a hand. I wanted a blueprint, he wanted a relationship. I wanted certainty, he wanted trust. And here's the part that still makes me emotional. The verse doesn't say God tolerates our stumbling steps. It says he delights in them. The God who spoke galaxies into existence, who set the stars in their courses, who knows the number of hairs on your head, he takes pleasure in watching you take one shaky, uncertain, I have no idea what I am doing step toward him. He's not tapping his watch. He's not rolling his eyes. He's delighting. But oh, the surrender. Can we talk about how hard it is to let go of the need for certainty? I white-knuckled my plans like they were the last lifeboat on the Titanic. My journals from that season are just pages and pages of obsessive lists, pros and cons, contingency plans for my contingency plans. I'd have panic attacks in the middle of the night, heart racing, chest tight, because I couldn't control the outcome of a situation I hadn't even faced yet. My prayers were less, thy will be done, and more, here's my will, please sign off on it, and also could you expedite the approval process. I treated God like a cosmic vending machine, and when the snacks didn't drop, I assumed he was either broken or I wasn't worthy of the transaction. But slowly, painfully slowly, I started unclenching my fists. And it felt like dying. I'm not exaggerating. Surrender felt like defeat. It felt like giving up. It felt like admitting I couldn't do it, and in my productivity-worshipping brain, that was the ultimate failure. But here's what I'm learning, surrender isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of freedom. It's the moment you stop trying to be the author and start trusting the author. It's when you trade your frantic scrambling for his steady hand. I've been there at 2 a.m., rewriting my resume for the 5th time, convinced that my worth was hanging on a single word choice in a bullet point. I've been there when the silence from heaven felt like rejection, when the unanswered prayer felt like abandonment. And maybe you're there right now. So there I was, standing in the frozen food aisle of a Kroger at 8:42 p.m. on a Tuesday, when it finally broke. Not the bag, me. I just stood there, cart half full, and I started crying. Not the pretty, single tear down the cheek kind of crying. The ugly kind. And in that moment, I finally prayed the prayer I'd been avoiding for 2 years. I didn't ask God to show me the plan. I didn't ask for a sign, a confirmation, a fleece, a door to open, or a door to close. I just whispered, barely audible, I don't understand any of this, and I'm terrified, but I trust you. Even if I never get the answers. Even if the wait never makes sense. I trust you. And something shifted. Not my circumstances, those were still a dumpster fire. But something in my chest. Something that had been clenched so tight for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe without permission. Here's what I had to lose before I could move forward, the idol of certainty. POV, I had made an idol out of knowing. I had convinced myself that if I could just understand the why, and the how, and the when, then I could finally have peace. But peace isn't the absence of unanswered questions, peace is the presence of a trusted person in the middle of them. I had been treating God like a consultant I hired to explain his strategy before I'd sign off on it. And he was waiting, patiently, stubbornly, lovingly, for me to stop asking for a briefing and start asking for his hand. That night in the Kroger parking lot, I realized God's silence in those 3 a.m. moments wasn't abandonment. It was an invitation. He wasn't giving me answers because he was giving me something better, himself. I didn't need to know the route because I was finally holding the hand of the one who built the road. And here's the big lesson that crystallized for me, the memorable truth I'd bet my life on now: waiting is not wasted. Every closed door that felt like rejection was actually protection. Every "not yet" that made me want to scream was actually preparation. I used to read Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight," and I'd treat it like a promise that God would smooth out every bump, remove every obstacle, and give me the express lane to my destiny. That's not what it means. The Hebrew word for straight there doesn't mean without curves, it means directed, purposeful, aligned with his will. A straight path in God's economy isn't one without detours, it's one without ultimate regret. And Psalm 37 verse 23 says the Lord makes our steps firm, not the whole staircase visible, just the next step solid. I had been demanding the blueprint when he was offering me stability for the step I was on. So let me ask you a mirror moment question, and I want you to sit with this. What if the very thing you're fighting against, the delay you resent, the closed door you keep trying to pry back open, what if that's the thing God is using to save you from a version of your life you'd beg him to undo? So here's the practical application, because faith without action is just religious daydreaming. First, identify one area right now where you're white-knuckling control. Maybe it's your finances, your kid's future, that relationship you're trying to manufacture, the career move you're obsessing over. Physically open your hands right now. I'm serious. Stop what you're doing and open your palms toward heaven. That's the posture of surrender. Stay there for 30 seconds and tell God, this is yours. I'm done pretending I'm the author. Second, take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone and write down one no or wait you've received, the job rejection, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that evaporated. Underneath it, write this sentence: God, show me what you were protecting me from that I couldn't see. You might not get the answer today, but you're planting a flag of trust. Third, every morning this week, before you check your phone, before you read the news, before you start calculating and strategizing, speak Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 aloud. Not as a ritual. As a declaration of war against anxiety. As a reminder to your own soul that you are not the one holding the universe together. The memorable truth you need to carry into this week: the safest place you can be is in the center of God's will, even when it feels like the edge of a cliff. So let me pray for you. Not a polished, performative prayer, but the kind you'd hear if we were sitting across from each other at a coffee shop with cold lattes between us. Father, I lift up the person listening right now, the one who's been awake at 3 a.m. staring at shadows on the ceiling, the one whose bank account is screaming, the one whose career feels like a hallway of locked doors, the one whose body is betraying them with sickness or pain, the one whose marriage is hanging by a thread, the one who's fighting battles no one else can see. Lord, you see. You see the tears in the grocery store. You see the panic attacks in the parking lot. You see the brave face they put on for everyone else. I ask for peace that surpasses understanding to guard their hearts and minds right now, not a peace that makes sense on a spreadsheet, but a peace that anchors them when nothing else is stable. Close every wrong door, Lord. Slam it shut if you have to. And open the right ones with such clarity that they can't second-guess it. Give them wisdom for the decisions that are paralyzing them, courage to take the next step even when they can't see the whole staircase, and the supernatural ability to surrender the need to know everything. Replace their anxiety with anticipation. Replace their fear with faith. Not because they're strong enough, but because you are. And for the one who's been waiting so long they've started to believe the lie that they've been forgotten, would you wrap them up right now in a peace so tangible it almost feels physical?